understanding.
This meeting is being recorded.
Oh my, that's a heck of a message.
They want to make sure you hear it.
Yes, it's a little aggressive.
Yeah. So we're beginning our membership meeting with the three of us. Arlie, as I said, Arlie's daughter had an emergency C-section on Monday. So I'm thinking she's probably with Jillian baby and kind of focusing on that. Sharon Harvey Alexander is on her way to Salt Lake City because that's where her son is going to be graduating from college in a bit. And Maria Cristina is in Italy, a long day of dinner with her family. And so she, sent some information, and so we're just going to get started. So let's take a breath, and I'll get you that in just a minute. Okay, Alexandra? I think it went out. I think the number went out in an email.
It's always the same phone number with the difference is only the meeting code and the meeting ID. So it's always, Zoom always has the same phone number for everybody. And then when you put in the meeting ID and the password, that's when you get sent to your particular meeting.
Got it. They use the same number. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. We're learning. Well, so let's set space. We gather here in the sacred ground of sovereignty, cocooned within the fourfold cocoon of red rock, guardian circle, hitchhiker shield, and hazmat suit. We know that in these times, having a very clear protective shield intention for our work to lighten and eliminate parasitics is very important, and we call for that type of addition to our day today. Just take a breath. And get a sense of being here in this body. At this moment in time. And all that has been pulling at you one way or the other, up or down, left or right, just breathe it into that breath to be held by your spiritual teams until you choose to pick up those threads again. We are grateful to be able to gather together, to be creative together, to help design our lives and our community and our family and our worlds together. And that's what community is about. So with those intentions and the help of those who are in the unseen worlds working with us, we declare our space prepared, protected, secured with love and discernment and stability. And so it is. So let's take time to put ourselves in the circle. If there's any individuals you want, how many you want in the circle is, by number is good. Any situations, personal or global, and any furry ones you want to put in, do that also. So I'll go first, and I'll say I'm Sharon Raji. I'm here on Whidbey Island, back home, having had some extremely interesting experiences and validations at the same time during the last week, 2 weeks and a half. I want to place 36 individuals in the circle, 3 personal situations And of course, I'm going to put in the Ukraine as a major focus point for the entire world. And then I pass to Emma.
Hello, Emma here in Williamstown, Massachusetts, on a very warm and sunny day. It's in the 70s. It was snowing just a few days ago, so you have some kind of contrast.
Wow.
And I didn't prepare my mind for putting people in the circle, so I will put in 2 people and 1 puppy, and 1 personal situation, and of course Ukraine, but also the intense antipathy towards women. And I will pass to Alexandra.
You're muted, Alexandra, and I'm going to put a phone number in for you, okay? So that's a number you could use with the meeting ID. And let's see, here we go.
While we wait for Alexandra to check in on the phone, I'm going to turn my camera off and feed Sadie.
Perfect. Thank you, Emma. So Alexandra, once you get in, let's wait just a minute until Emma gets back, and then have your share, okay? So no rush, we're just holding space until she gets back. Okay, she's back. So Alex, if you've got your phone up, ready to go. So are you ready, Alex? Maybe what I can do is put Maria Cristina asked for 27 individuals to be put into the circle. She's in Italy. And oh, I see. Yeah, so she's asked for the meeting ID is, I gave you the wrong meeting ID. I don't know why that came across. So try this meeting ID. There we go. Maria Cristina has asked for 27 people to be in the circle and 2 personal situations, and also including the Ukraine. So that's where she's at. And let's put Arlie and her family in the circle, because we know we want a really great outcome for mom and baby. So Alex, does that help, that other number? I mean, the other meeting room number? Maybe you'll have to type it in, Alex. I'm not sure how to fix it right now, but maybe you could type in the individuals, how many, and furry ones, etc. We could say, you know, planetary energies are all around us right now, not just the Pluto, but we've got a lot of Piscean energy. And the Piscean energy can be also confusing. It can be fanciful. With Jupiter hitting in that area too, it could be expanding all those things, but really it's really working in conjunction with Pluto in that the call is to be, who are you? Are you underestimating yourself or are you overestimating yourself? What have you learned? What do you want to learn? What do you need to let go of? And so it's all right in with that Pluto energy of opportunity to move to something greater. And when you do that, you get to see maybe some of the glitches that can happen. And so Alex. So when you type it in, Alex, then we'll go ahead and read it in, and then we'll move along until then. So, and I'm sorry about that glitch of the numbers for your phone. What I realized, and the reason I wanted to make this quarterly meeting happen is because I realized that when I was able, after Michelle's heart was transplanted, I got a new heart transplant, and I was able to begin to put my work together and doing sessions and classes, etc., which I hadn't done consistently for quite a while through that period, that I wanted to work with a group, and I did. And their advice was to get clear about who you are and what you're doing. And I named that space Sacred Ground Collective. So I did not at the beginning say Sacred Ground Collective Community. I didn't say Sacred Ground Community. Maybe that's in it there. Maybe there's something inherent in the word collective, because we certainly have begun to be in community and be in alignment with one another and value being together. But I recognize that going back to say, who are we as a community? Going back to an agreement that said something's missing, let's rewrite that agreement, that foundational agreement. So that's why I wanted to, begin with that acknowledgement that when I started Sacred Ground Collective, I didn't interpret it as a tribe or a family or a community, even though it has grown to become that. Okay. So Alexandra is putting her cats and her Martin Luther King and eclipse into the circle. She has about 6 major situations that are all causing stress. So we have 74 individuals in our circle. We place in the hands of their healers, their causal team and higher self, and ask that they be moved into that place of highest good for them. We have our furry friends. We have the personal situations, and we have the Ukrainian situation. And in that, we are also asking to be guided as how we participate in all of those, and give thanks to those who know and see broader and bigger than we what might need to be done to weave good. So getting back to community, I thought the first thing maybe with a community would be the same thing as you begin with yourself. What are the values that you see or want to see in this community? And I'm just going to have you open up, and we're going to capture those values so that we can claim them. Okay, Emma, you want to start?
Sure. I mean, I think the values really need to start with a common specific desire,
Mhm.
a common specific goal, not like just we want to get rid of all the parasitics, but we want to, which is a grand goal, but I'm thinking communities are built on smaller goals, more specific goals.
Mhm.
And then, just mutual support, kindness, respect, compassion. One of the things, I'm just going to talk off the top of my head, can I?
That's what we're doing right now. Just
So
talking
one of the things I'm seeing a lot of all sorts of different people writing about on social media, in essays, on blog posts, is this whole sense of acknowledging the need for community, especially after these past 2 years of deep isolation. And I'm also seeing some very interesting writing about, and again, very recent, about how often, especially women, put aside their friendships for their romantic partners. And that friendships and so community, because community is, in part built on friendships, but it's seen as a second-rate player in life. So there's family, there's children, there's partner, there's work, there's self, and then comes family and friends and community. And so I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I think that's also something to take into consideration, that we live in a culture that values the personal over the communal. So like there's this kind of calling for community and yet not engaging with it because of things that are valued more.
Right.
So yeah, I think that the couple of things that I mentioned, with kind of a common goal at the center, or
Mhm.
common maybe commitment, like, yes, this is the community and this is the community that I want. And I say this with absolute love and respect for everybody, but there's only 3 of us here today.
Mhm.
And so this community isn't necessarily a priority for people as a community, rather than as a touchstone.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
So those are my thoughts.
Alexandra, what thoughts come up for you? I know it's hard to. So as you can see, Emma, she's put in, yeah, they're so stressed as individuals and with their families due to politics that they can't see outside their own spheres. The values of integrity, communication, support, compassion, respect. Mhm. And I think you're right. The people are very stressed.
Yeah.
And there's more people. I mean, the stress, so broad, such a broad wave of stress impacts those of us who may not usually be stressful, because it's a wave, it's clouds, it's moving all over, here's what I think about, the projects. I think that's really important. I think however, for me, I'm going to look at the community values before I decide if I want to participate in any project with them, right? And so that's why I put the values first. Like what have you experienced? Let's just say it this way. What have you experienced within these circles? I'll just call them circles right now, because I didn't create a community. There's no foundation for a community here. There's foundations for classes. There's foundations for meeting each other, but I didn't create foundation for a community. So So I think we're seeing that lack. You know, it didn't create that. But I do think we are seeing things that we value, the way of interaction. So what are those? And maybe that's what you alluded to, but let's go around again with that. What are the values, the interactive qualities of character that you have seen or experienced in some fashion that we want to claim and anchor? So for me, I'll go, well, everybody thinks. So for me, what's important is respect. What also is important for me is, a sense of equality. Nobody is on a higher peg than anybody else. Definitely, I feel kindness. I feel that we have experienced compassion for one another. And so I just put those out to begin with. What about you, Emma?
Yeah, I think in terms of equality, for me, again, I would stick it to non-hierarchy.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't necessarily, because we all have very unique and different gifts. And so, I mean, maybe part of the value is feeling safe enough, creating it's like creating a environment of safety so that people feel they can bring and share their unique gifts. So I think safety is part of that kind of goes with respect and kindness and compassion. I think I don't know, the fire, that inner fire to light up, either for your personal projects or the communal projects. But that inner fire, I think, is part, because kind of like the sun path and the moon path. If you're still on the moon path and you're still waiting for someone else to light your fire, it's more difficult to be an equal in the community. So yeah, I mean, these are like in addition to everything we've already said.
Yeah. So Alex has written, as I phase out many friends, it's because I am feeling a lack of honor, acceptance, generosity, empathy. So if we shifted that around, Alexandra, you'd want to make sure that in a community or in a friendship, you'd be honored, you'd be accepted, you feel that generosity and empathy. I want friends who really appreciate my uniqueness. And I think those definitely are qualities that you would want in a community. What do you think we haven't experienced in the community that would make the community stronger? And I'll put
I think that all those things are there.
I think they are.
I think the only thing that's different is that this is in essence yours. And so it's not really non-hierarchical because you are the leader. And so there is and I know that I feel it in myself and see it sometimes. There's a lack of willingness to step into a leadership role for fear of kind of dimming your light or taking something away that is inherently yours.
Yeah, very well said. Because what I would say is there's a lack of ownership of the community amongst
Yeah.
the community members.
Mm,
And again, I haven't foundationed it as a community yet.
mhm.
And so how could it have had those various aspects? You know, um, I don't know that I know how to mentor some of that, but I know there are those in the community who do know how to mentor that and bring it out. But I think that ownership of the community as a community, it's like your family. Here's how I see it. My family, I'm going to be interacting with my family because there's a commitment, because we're family, you know? And so whatever it takes for that need that I can offer is what I'm going to offer. What I want to be in is I want to be in a community that's as strong as a family. But the strength doesn't come because I was born there. It comes because I am choosing. I am choosing who to be with. And if I'm choosing, I want to be and play with you, and I want to create projects and work with you, I want to know that you own that same kind of commitment, that same kind of I have your back. What can we do together? And I think it's a model that we have to create by the geniuses that are in the community, because I don't know where we could go to say, okay, there's the model. It's been going on for a long, long time. I don't think it has really, but I want to have that kind of community that's, whether I'm there or whether I'm not there, the community functions. I'm not interested in putting a lot of time and effort into interacting with everyone, and know that if I have to pull away, it's going to go away. I don't want that.
Right, yeah,
I mean, then it might be that, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean like you don't have other places you're participating. But I want to move out of, we're just hanging out together and having a good time and we like each other, to, if we want to move into a community, I want to take on a project, or I want to take on some projects, some very clear projects, very powerful projects, because we have some unique understandings and gifts that could be called forth together. And so I do want those projects in place. What about you, Alexandra?
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Okay. I'm kind of distracted today. I didn't even know about this until 3:30 today. And I got a lot going on. My husband's doing honeydews. So I've missed part of what you're talking about. But I'd like to use an example of something that happened to me last week. I have belonged to a business and professional women's group that's national in scope, and we had not met for lunch in 2 years and 3 months because of COVID. Well, as it turns out, 2 people decided to speak on Reiki healing. Well, when I read about this, I just about fainted because the president of this group is very scientific, extremely business, etc. Well, I will tell you, it was the best meeting I've ever been to of this group, because people were open to new ideas. They didn't know what Reiki healing was. They were so excited, and we stayed like 45 minutes after the meeting. because we got excited about something. And I even volunteered to maybe create a group that meets monthly that would relate only to health and healing. But it was like that group was dying on the vine. And one thing I said to the president, because she and I both have taught at the college and we taught a lot of things on marketing and promotion and how to get your name in the paper and all that kind of stuff before COVID. I said that I just didn't feel like that was what women were interested in anymore. If they want to go get that, they can go to a class at night at the college, or they can go on Zoom. All that stuff is free. That I feel like that where we are as women today, if we really want to move ourselves forward and we want to do something to change the dynamics that is going on in this country, especially when you see the far right agenda of sexism, of forbidden abortion, all that kind of stuff. I think as women, we've got to get together and put our energy into this healing stuff. I mean, we have all that other information. If we're in any type of career, we can get that other information. What we're not getting, I feel, is ways to support each other through healing and strategies and energetic, mostly I think that the energetics is what we need to actually create a community. We have to have that commitment of putting our energy in there, and I'm talking more about metaphysical energy.
Alexandra,
Uh-huh.
given your experience with the Sacred Ground community over the past couple of years, how would you take that experience you had and now apply it to the women that you know in this community in order to perhaps find a way towards more cohesiveness?
Yes.
And you don't necessarily have an answer today.
No. I feel like though, and all of us are running around in so many different directions. We all have so much going on. Even me that works out in my home, and doesn't have to deal with traffic, and we don't have children and stuff. I feel like we've got to make it a greater commitment, and we got to decide we're going to like meet every week and stick to it and say, hey, we're going to meet Tuesday at 4:00. Let's do it. Or when, and I don't, and it may be a lot of it is Pluto. I know Pluto is ripping my life up in the 4th house, but maybe people are having more challenges. I mean, God knows all you have to do is turn on the TV to see that the world's gone crazy. But somehow we've got to figure out how to make this a priority. Because I've said this to my husband, and he has no idea what I do in my office. But Sharon has been my lifeline for the last 2 years. She really has. And Sharon, I can't thank you enough for that, because you really have. When I thought the whole world just didn't make any sense at all, I could come to this group and get answers.
Been an honor, Alexandra.
Yeah.
I know, I've been with my daughter for two and a half weeks, and I am just again reminded of I'm watching her, and she's not out there not knowing much, but facing cancer, facing possible brain cancer, to have her go from couldn't even get out of bed by the time I got there, and had been that way for like 3 weeks, to by the time I left, she's excited about life. She's letting go of everything, knowing that what's hers is coming back. I mean, the excitement and the not just hope, but spark of life that comes when you understand more than what you see in the world. And I've seen this many times before, as I'm sure you have too. And so here we have this group who have met in these circles, and that's been great. But what has it given us from which we can weave, and lift ourselves higher and extend differently? That's what I want to do. Emma, was that you? Next.
Yeah, I think, you've said this, you talked about your family twice so far. And actually 3 times so far, but like just talking about how for you,
Yeah.
there's that commitment. Like this is your family and you are 100% committed and you will do what you will do for it.
Mhm.
And, and I'm sure that there are others who are in, who also have that commitment to the healing of whoever is in most need at the moment.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's something that your daughter could stand on.
Mhm.
Right? Like, I mean, as you know, I do not have a family like that. That isn't even a concept that I understand.
Yeah.
Because it just seems so mind-boggling that someone would stand on that foundation and always be there.
Mhm.
And I think that is part of, that's part of what's missing.
Mhm.
Is that not only the knowing that someone is always there, but the wanting to be that someone who's always there in whatever way you're able to show up at that time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like I was with Carol in a group. She has a salon, a conversation salon every once in a while when she's around. And the word that they wanted to discuss was responsibility. Most of us feel like heavy responsibility, and I said, to me, it's respondability. I have the ability to respond.
Right.
And so in my work, my tag work, in the session work, I determine those whom I will work with. I determine there are some of the non-negotiables. Now, if my family has some of the same non-negotiable qualities, I'm going to work with my family.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I respond that way in my family. And I think in a career, I think it's really important that you have non-negotiables. We shouldn't have to work with everybody doing everything.
Right.
I think in a community like I'm speaking of, a community ought to have that a similar type of high priorities with each other that you might have with a family.
I agree.
And again, I can't even compare what we are in our circles to the community I want to be a part of and build with, because I didn't create a community. I didn't put a foundation in for a community. But I mean, because Emma, you ought to have that same sense of someone's holding rock bottom for you. And it doesn't need to be your birth community, but it's your community. We ought to have that with one another.
Right. And the thing about, I think another part that goes with being part of the family, because like, I know you've got a lot of chosen responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to burden you, right?
Uh-huh.
If I'm struggling, I don't want to burden other people. And I think part of it is that my own history and my own lack of trust that people will show up and follow through. But I think it's also sort of like the tentativeness of the solidity of the community.
Right.
Like I did a really big thing a couple of weeks ago, and I contacted Audrey and I said, I'm really struggling and I really want you to check in with me tomorrow.
Yeah.
Not that I thought I would hurt myself, but just for me to know that there would be somebody who would show up, and she did.
Yeah.
Right? That was huge.
you know, that shift in in the independent living is like, I don't want to burden you.
Right.
I'll do it myself. But then we make a decision for somebody else that's not our decision to make. We ought to be able to say to Audrey, I'm struggling. And can you show up for me tomorrow? Knowing that if she can't, it's because she's absolutely correct. She can't, but then there's somebody, and she will say, I can't tomorrow, I can another day. And then you can ask someone else.
Right.
I'm story. In Boise, Idaho, I had a lot of learning I did in Boise. There was a fellow that I met that I'd had lifetimes with, all about children. We lost child after child after child. He said, I can't do the children thing with you this lifetime, but he showed up in my life as a teacher. So we go out and have pie and ice cream at a cafe, which we did once in a while. And he started talking.
So Utah.
Yeah, but this is Idaho, which is similar. So we're having pie and ice cream, and he's getting excited about, he would like to have a child. He's been married 2-3 times, never had a child, which is part of that contract that he made with me, that he wouldn't have a child until he saw that I was okay with the children. So he was ready to have a child. He doesn't know all the backstory. And he starts talking about the children and what he's learned and how he'd like to teach it to the children, and I'm going like, oh my gosh, all those old feelings start to come up. I want to participate with that. And I knew I don't really want to. I know it's coming from another time and place.
Right.
But I say nothing to him. I just listen, and he's excited, and I drive away. And in the car, my team says to me, Sananda said to me, what did you just do? I said, you mean I didn't tell him what I was feeling? He said, yes. What did you do? Well, I didn't want to rock the boat. And he said, if you're playing a game of cards, because cards is also something we did in Boise. If you're playing a game of cards and you know that your partner does not like the heart suit, and as you're dealing, there's a heart coming up and you hide it, and a heart coming up and you hide it, who will win the game? I said, I should have talked to him. I should have said to him. He said, yes, and you have to go and do it. So I did, went to another place where we sat on the grass, and I said, guess what? Shared with him all that I had sensed about our other lifetimes together. He listened respectfully. And he said, you know what? He said, he worked at the Boise State University. He said, I always get meat, a turkey or a ham at holiday season. I said, yeah. He said, have you noticed that I bring it into the church office, because I was the administrator, and put it on your desk? I said, yeah, I've noticed that. He said, I have had the most overwhelming feeling that I had to provide meat for the family. So, being in that kind of place where you're safe enough that you begin experiencing, I've got your back, and then it grows and it becomes stronger, and then I have your back. That's what I want to foundation this community as a community of the qualities and values that we are, the uniqueness that we are, the acceptance, the love, the generosity. But I want us to put in the weaving of what is the community weaving. Who are, not so much maybe who we are as a community, but what is the qualities of the community maybe?
Well, my question is that, like, given the work that we do and this community's understandings, what's in the way? What are the contracts that are in the way? What are the obstacles that are in the way? Why can't we gel?
We haven't set the outcome of gelling. That's what we need to do first. Okay. And then we need to be willing to notice within ourselves what comes up that says, it's not that important, or whatever it is. So I think that the next thing to do is, like, what is it? How like some of the things we've talked about, how we are as a community, how we are with each other, what's our priority, how tenacious are we together? That's the outcome. We haven't done that. I haven't done it. And then we can start seeing what's the steps to take. And it might be like Alexandra said, we've not had a community meeting ever. We've had a project meeting and many project meetings, broadcasters, time travel, guardian circle, healing circle, vision circle, breath circle, all really good. But we have had no consistent community meeting to build community. And maybe that every other week that we have for the participatory members ought to be that for a bit of time.
I mean, I felt like we were moving in that direction with Women Remaking the World.
We were moving in that direction, but I didn't feel like that after Women Remaking the World that there was anything left. It was
No, it just poofed away.
It just poofed away.
There was no foundation to continue.
Right. There was a thought about it, but there wasn't the will to continue. And maybe there's not the will. That's what I think, with coming up with maybe some reality statements of the outcome. Is there the will for that? Do I want to be a part of that? Is maybe a question, you see, and not assume and see who's where. Maybe some people just want to do a class. Some people want to be involved with a circle, and there might be some who want to build a community, and this is what the outcome would be. And have some meetings around that specific. Because then I think we can move into projects. I think projects, for me, it's really important to take what we know, like what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on in our country with the laws about women. We in this larger group have, we do the laser, we do those things, but there's a little bit of a lack of depth and tenacity, I think.
Maybe
Ownership.
Maybe the first project is building the community.
I think
without
that
any kind of other, without the energy going out, but keeping the energy circling in.
Right. Yeah, I think it's time to decide what the community is and see what the will is for this community, and then take on whatever.
Because if there's not the willingness, that's okay.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to know. Is this something that you want to take on, like you said, the responsibility for? And are you willing to commit to, and follow through with? I know that I'm not always the greatest on follow through because I dissipate. And I have to gather myself back.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you lose the will for community. It might mean you use the energy, is going into what you need to do this way, but we still can hold the strength of the will.
Right.
And that's what I don't think has been modified. Okay, so here's what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask you guys, and I'm going to ask anybody who listens to the replay. I would like to have any kind of reality statement that comes to your mind as what would be, because I could write it, but then there's no ownership for you guys. What would be a reality statement of a community of which you would want to be a part? And send that to me, and I'll compile them. And then we're set to meet 2 weeks from today. Do you think that's too far out? Do you think we ought to try to meet next week?
I think 2 weeks at this point is good, because I think let's let it simmer.
And so that we can compile those and have a discussion. I want to have more community ownership conversations around this issue. So the assignment is then to write a statement that would describe a community of which you would absolutely be committed to and love to be a part of.
Mhm.
Is that good?
Yeah.
And send it to me. Okay,
Thank you.
job done. Job done. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for hosting us.
It only takes a small group of those willing to make changes to make the changes.
Yeah. Well,
Sharon, thank
enjoy-
you. Sharon, thank you for sending me the notice. I just happened to be on the computer
Wow.
and
And got it. Huh?
got it for today because I got something earlier that a class was canceled today, but I don't know, was there a class supposed to be today?
Well, that was sent out quite a while ago. It was sent out when I went to Oklahoma. So it was sent about 2 weeks ago. Because yes, usually there's a class on Wednesday night, and the classes won't resume until next week.
So we'll
I'll
have
send
a class next week.
Yeah, the Monday class will be happening next week.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Lots
Enjoy
of
the
love.
get back in.
On we go.
Bye.
Bye. I'm glad you got your baby cat back, Alexandra. Good
Oh,
for
me
you.
too. That's scary. Okay, I love you.
You did it. Okay, love you too. Bye-bye.